When you're running a kitchen that does more than just a daily lunch service, catering a wedding, stocking a banquet line, or shuttling hot trays between prep and service, you quickly learn that the difference between a smooth shift and a chaotic scramble often comes down to the way you move those pans. I've seen teams wrestle with makeshift solutions, plain hand trucks, overloaded carts, even a string of trays taped to a dolly, only to end up with soggy food or bent edges. That's why I wanted to spend a few minutes breaking down the Carlisle Cateraide insulated front-loading carrier, so you can decide if it actually saves you time, protects the food, and justifies the price tag. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First, let's set the stage for why a carrier like this exists at all. In a busy line, you're usually juggling at least a half-dozen trays, each holding a different dish, and you need to keep those trays at safe temperatures while you move them a reasonable distance. The typical question is whether an insulated carrier with wheels really holds a measurable temperature advantage, or if you're just paying for a heavier piece of equipment. The Cateraide's claim of extended hold times is not a vague promise, it's a design that layers a thick foam core between the inside of the pan slots and the exterior shell, which, according to Carlisle's own data, can keep hot items above 140 F for roughly an hour and cold items below 40 F for a comparable span. In real kitchens, that translates to being able to load a set of 10 pans, wheel them into the banquet hall, and still serve the food within the temperature window required by most health codes without rushing or reheating. Now, who gets the most mileage out of this carrier? If you run a catering business that does multiple events a day, or you manage a restaurant that frequently runs large-scale brunches or family-style dinners, the 10-pan capacity hits a sweet spot. You can load everything from a steaming tray of hash browns to a chilled dessert platter, and the front-loading design means you never have to tilt the carrier or wrestle the pans sideways, a common snag with side loaders when the pans are stacked. For a smaller operation, a single-location CAF that only needs a couple of trays for the occasional party, the carrier might feel oversized and the price harder to justify. The extra casters and the robust frame add weight, so if you're only moving a few pans a couple of times a week, a lighter hand truck could be a more economical choice. Let's walk through a typical day of use. I've observed a catering crew start their prep by loading the carrier on the kitchen floor, sliding 10 full-size hotel-grade pans onto the slots, then securing each with the snap-lock clasps. Those clasps have a distinct click that signals a secure lock, and they stay fast even when the carrier is jostled across a concrete floor. After the pans are locked, the team rolls the unit onto a service lift, then onto a set of ramps that lead to the dining hall. Because the carrier's base sits a few inches above the ground, you don't have to lift the pans off the floor to clear the casters, just push, and the wheels absorb the unevenness of the floor. The ergonomic handles, placed at a comfortable height, make it easy for two people to steer without straining the back, which is a subtle but important benefit during long events. On the downside, the carrier's insulation does add bulk. The frame is built from a heavy-duty polymer, and while that contributes to the tough construction the marketing highlights, it also makes the unit less portable for a single person to lift when it's empty. In tight kitchen corridors, the width of the carrier can be a limiting factor, about 24 inches at its widest point, so you'll need to plan your routing in advance to avoid bottlenecks. Another practical concern is the snap-lock mechanism itself. It holds the pans firmly, but if you forget to engage a clasp, the pan can shift when the carrier is turned sharply, which could lead to spills. The solution is a simple habit change, a quick double check as you walk the unit out, but it's an extra mental step that busy staff can overlook. What about cleaning and maintenance? The carrier's exterior is a smooth, wipe-clean plastic, and the interior slots are also non-porous, so you can hose them down after an event without worrying about grime building up in cracks. The only part that requires a bit more attention are the casters. Over time, the wheels can collect dust and food particles, especially if you store the carrier in a pantry rather than on a clean service floor. A periodic wipe with a damp cloth and a light spray of silicone lubricant on the axle keeps them rolling quietly. That's a relatively low-effort upkeep compared to a metal-framed cart, which would need rust prevention. In terms of value, the price point sits in the mid-range for insulated carriers that hold 10 pans and include casters. The